this is and I'm speaking clearly and concisely. And oh, wow, he makes me so mad. He says all these things, and I've heard it before. When I get to like PCS in the Army, I get to a new unit, everybody's like, that dude is rude. That dude is so rude. He's just and I was as an NCO, as a warrant, I don't really have to do that because I don't have to interact with people that I don't absolutely need to anymore. But as an NCO, they'd be like, that dude is so rude. But it was me establishing my clarity. That was what you see is what you get. Right is right, wrong is wrong. And although those NCOs or those people might be this way and that there, I'm not that guy, so I'm not going to participate in it. And my discipline was being that even when it was uncomfortable for me, even when I had to confront sergeant majors or colonels or this, that, or first sergeants and sit back and like, I'm the platoon sergeant, it's my platoon, it is. And for them to see like, damn, he's not only is he clear in what he's saying, he's got the discipline to stand up and be like, oh, like even to the first sergeant, you're wrong. So this is what we're going to do. It's my platoon. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to back off. And then to be consistent, I have a short story, and maybe we can edit. We're going to have to edit that piece, right? Because it's longer than 2 minutes. But when I was a platoon sergeant at Fort Hood, and I was in 1st Cav, 4th BSTB, and we were going to go, it was a Friday, we were going to go play soccer. So I got a field that was a mile away. That day, my entire platoon, we stretched out, and I was like, hey, we're going to go play soccer. PT doesn't end until I end it. The bell doesn't end it, I end it. And everybody's like, yeah, let's go, let's go. So the chaplain shows up, and she's actually here right now in Korea. I can't remember her name, but she's here. And then my company commander and somebody else decided they were going to come. So they come up to my platoon and it's like, hey, what are y'all doing today? And I was like, hey, we're going to go play soccer. We've had a real good week. We've done all these things. So that's where we're going to go. And he's like, all right, where are you going? And I was like, it's a mile out. And he's like, but there's a soccer field right here. And I was like, roger that. This is the commander, Captain Robinson. He was like, but there's a field right here. And I was like, roger that, sir. Hey, is everybody ready to go? He looked at me. He's like, hey, Sergeant Layton, like, but there's a field right here. And I said, yes, sir, I'm aware. So is everybody ready to go? And then he starts to say it again. And the chaplain looks over him and says, you don't get it. It's Sergeant Layton. He's not going to change his mind. Yeah. And at that moment, I knew, you know what I'm saying? My character's been established. He just didn't know. So we take off and we run. We get to the soccer field, and I had 2 soldiers sitting out there, already waiting, had the field protected for us. We get down there, and he's like, hey, Sergeant Layton, why didn't you just go to the closer field? I said, number one, they still have to earn the right to play. Mm-hmm. We're still in the military. They had to train. That's number one. Number two, I sent 2 people down here to wait on us to show up. So I would have had to send someone else to go down there, get them and the ball, just to come back, just to go to this field here, instead of what I planned, all because you showed up. I feel like, and he just, no, I understand. I just want to see, I have a reason for everything that I do, because I'm consistently disciplined and clear. And I feel like this part of the book, I don't know if that was a good story.
It was a good story. Actually, I am going to keep that part. So, like, for me, like, I call it, I think those are the golden standard. I thought it was very funny how you put golden circle, and then at the end, ended off with the golden standard.
Yeah.
Because clarity in speech, thought, and action means you have a why, right? And clarity at all place, people can rally behind it or rally against it, right? So it's something where your friends will be able to signify it or go against it. Like when, as a U.S. troop in Iraq, right? The people who are allies to U.S. troop know us, hey, that's a U.S. soldier when they see the uniform because it's clearly defined, right? Or they're like, oh, that's our enemy. That's the U.S. troops. But either way, they know where they stand when they see the uniform, right? And that's because it has a why behind it. Discipline for me was doing something even when you don't want to. And as I always heard as a kid and then figure out for myself, anything worth doing has its challenges, but once you've done it consistently, which was the third one I was going to get on, once you've repeated it over and over and over and over with that, maintaining that standard that you have set, then it becomes a lot easier to do. And this comes into the story, whether it's easier to do the right thing or do the wrong thing. And I say it's up to the person, right? If you have been doing the wrong thing consistently over a long period of time, of course, it's easier to do the wrong thing. But if you've been doing the right thing for a long period of time, then of course it's easier to do the right thing, even when the choice is difficult.
I can see that. I would argue the point that it's never easy to do the wrong thing. It'll always bite you in the ass at some point.
It would.
And it's a matter of, because you can't do the wrong thing with discipline. There's no way. You know what I'm saying? So you either work, I tell my kids, do it right once, and you won't have to do it again. That's the only way to work, or the only way to be lazy is to work hard. You have to understand what you're doing. Otherwise, you're creating a whole bunch of pitfalls that you aren't aware of the consequence of. And it says, when I tell my son, you can sit here and you can Google all the answers for your math work. But when you go to take that test, you're not going to have Google.
That's true.
You can sit here and you can do this over and over and over, and you can lie and lie and lie. And you can do this and that and third. And I tell people all the time, you can cheat on your girlfriend. That's your right.
Eventually she'll find
But
out.
eventually, it's not even that. She may not even find out ever. But eventually, you're going to start projecting what you did onto her. You're not getting away with anything because you're always there. And so, and that becomes like, I think that's tied to the why, right? Because when we look at how you were saying, I don't even know how you said it. I'm having a brain fart. All right. So when you look at the next chapter where it says leaders need a following, it's to say that without people looking to you, are you actually a leader? It breaks this conversation in like two pieces. One, you should be doing things and know why you're doing them, and it shouldn't have anything to do with anyone else. And two, you have to understand that everyone is following someone. So you're somebody's example, whether you want to be or not. And so when you need a following, you have to understand that the following you get is the following that people are looking to you for what they're trying to do.
Yeah. I do agree with that. So when I did say doing the wrong thing, right? Again, that's up to the way you look at things, right? Some people, as they would say, live inside the system. Some people make the rules for the system. And some people would like to say they live outside the realm of the system, right? It's all depending on how you look at it.
Yeah.
So in some way, what we look at as right, someone else might see as wrong, right? Within that perspective, within that like thin line, I would say that's where it would take like consistency and stuff like that for it to work. To get to part 3, which is leaders need the following. What do you think about that? Because my thoughts on that is completely different.
So I think that it's kind of said in a way that just wants you to think, obviously. Leaders need a following. I am who I am, regardless of who I'm around. I don't change. I'm just not going to be a different person because I want you to be my friend. And because of that, people are going to follow me. Do I necessarily need them to? The answer is yes and no, because that's the way I want the world to be. So I kind of need people to go along with that. Go along with just be yourself around me so that I can not be alone. I think that's the best way to say it. Is like when you sit down and you look at it, it's like, why am I the way that I am? Because I've seen bad people not do good things, lie, manipulate, connive, steal, cheat, this, that, and other. And I don't want to be that. But if I'm the only one being right, everybody else is eventually going to try to kill me. You know what I'm saying? So I need people to look at me and say, that is the example that I want to follow. Otherwise, I would be completely alone, understanding that everybody's going to do it. So I think when leaders need a follower, just like followers need a leader. Somebody needs an example of what good to be.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
So I look at it completely different. So as a child, my parents will always say to me, be a leader, not a follower. And it took a while to register to me what my mom in particular was saying to me. And she was just saying, be who you are, regardless of who you're hanging out with. And it's kind of funny because then like people who know me would say, hey, like, yeah, he's really, really goofy. And then people who really don't know me like that, like, or would say, yeah, he's quiet, he's open, and he'll talk, right?
Yeah.
And people who don't know me like that would say, oh yeah, he's kind of serious and quiet. But that's not the truth. I don't associate with you because we don't have a conversation. And we don't have that conversation. We don't have the conversations and build that relationship to where you would get to know me outside of what society would project onto me, right?
Yeah.
So I'm saying maybe you're projecting yourself onto me. But then so when I think about that, right, I would say leaders do not need a following. They only need to understand who they are and what their prerogative is whether or not people will follow you if they identify with what you're saying, which I do agree, right? And so as you go being the authentic you that this world has ever seen, like I said, with the U.S. Army soldier uniform being deployed downrange, people is gonna rally behind it because that's something that they are in agreement with, or they're gonna be opposed to it.
Yeah.
So you will never be alone because someone somewhere will always like what you do and wants to be a part of it. Which is funny because they said high school is hell, and after high school is where you meet your true friends, which I always thought was funny. Because then they also have a contradictory saying, show me your friends, tell me who you are.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I see the line of reasoning that you have on it, and it does make sense. It just resonates with me differently. And as I see it, if you weren't ever in high school, that was never a thing.
Mm-hmm.
At some point you would still have to develop who you are and what you like. I think that the application is more real when you are suggesting that people, as they're growing up, are changing shape constantly. Like the world that you're in is kind of forming you. So as you go through high school and you graduate high school, yeah, your friends are going to change because everybody went to the winds at that point. That was when you were expected to go find your career. I mean, but you look at like a farmer's kids. I've never seen a farmer with a bad work ethic. You know what I mean? Like they're just not lazy because they're hand to mouth. It's if I don't work, I don't eat. There's no grocery stores and stuff like that. So it's kind of like a farmer would recognize who they are faster than someone who's just going to the grocery store, someone who's had it easy. And it's like you take a kid from the city and send them and I've seen this before, send them to the islands, send them to Jamaica. Right? They leave and they don't appreciate nothing, but for some reason they come back and they're like, "Oh, I'll help with the dishes. I don't know what goes on between that flight." You know what I'm saying? But I've seen people go to Jamaica and my kid was acting up, so I sent them home. I got a buddy, Jonathan Carino. He's a warrant officer as well, and we talk all the time. And he's like, "Yeah, man, my kids was acting like they didn't appreciate certain things. I sent them to Colombia. I sent them to my cousins who live out in the sticks, in the woods and stuff like that." They came back appreciating the hot water and the this, that, and the third, knowing that, hey, this $5 could last you months down there. Up here, it's trash. You know what I'm saying? It just kind of like that perspective. It really, really put it differently, right? And so when you look at leaders need followings, it jumps into the emergence of trust. I think it goes back into what I was saying as far as like that PT session where the commander's expectation was for me to change. And maybe for him, from his perspective, he was just like, well, I'm the commander. I tell him to change, he's going to change. But the ultimate authority was on me, who had all of the information. And I could have stood there and explained to him why I made the decisions that I made regarding my platoon. But at that point, he began to trust me more because I wasn't just willing to bend. Right. And I remember when I was still at E6 when that situation happened. When I got promoted to sergeant to first class, it was only after 3 years of being on active duty in the Army. And so he brought me to his office, and I have the memo. I remember I let you borrow my I Love Me book. He was the one that wrote that memo. It was like, hey, I just want to tell you congratulations on getting promoted to sergeant first class. This is where you sat with your peers, and this is where you made it. And he was like, why are you the way, we had a real conversation with the guy, and he was just like, I don't understand. Like, most people don't run around here doing this. And I was like, I come from a different place. I've seen what bad leaders do. And I don't want to be perceived that way. That's my why. But like I said, from that PT session, until he left that unit, he had ultimate trust. He come and say, hey, I need you to fix something. What's up, sir? This is back when I used to smoke and everything. They come and somebody messed up a range, and he's like, hey, the range is messed up. And I was like, let me see the document. It's not that bad. You just need to do this, that, this can be fixed. And hey, can you handle it? Yeah, I can fix it. How long is it going to take? I'm not playing that game. I can't tell you how long it's going to take. I've never lied to you before. I'm not going to start now. I don't know how long it's going to take, but I'm going to go put some force on some areas. And then once I get it done, I'll come back and brief you. And hey, roger that. Complete trust. Hey, appreciate it. NCO, go handle it. And I go, take care of it, come back. Hey, we're good. Had those prior circumstances not happened, I don't think I would have been promoted as fast. I think that my character stood out, and it wasn't that the people who had the power to get me promoted were following me, but they wanted other people to follow me. And I think that's a touch, right? That's a touch. So that's a touch. Because now what it is they're using me as an example to say, hey, we're promoting that guy, be like that guy.
Yes,
Be more like him, and that's what's going to get you successful. So I think we just found another kind of angle to look at that. Like it wasn't actually about people following me as much as it might be about someone telling someone else, go do what that guy's doing.
It's also interesting though. Like if you really do think about it, if iron was to bend like copper did under pressure, we wouldn't be using iron or steel. We wouldn't be using those. Those wouldn't be the standard of building things.
Yeah.
So,
but iron is brittle.
Iron is brittle, but like when after creep, I think I believe that's what it's called. Creep is applied to it and it's worn out and broken. We went up for an upgrade, right, to steel, and
the Bessemer process. Yeah,
steel and all of this stuff is because like people need something that's reliable, like which is what's interesting because when it comes and apply to a relationship, I'm like, hey, if someone comes here and tell me something about my wife, I know my wife. We're very consistent with each other. I could say that's not something my wife would do, or hey, that's definitely something my wife would do. And she could say the same about me, right? So like that doesn't sound like my husband. That sounds like my husband. And as a child, what I learned was the more consistent I was, the less likely people would be able to get me in trouble with my parents.
That is what I tell my kids all the time. You're telling people that they can use you as a scapegoat when you're not doing right. It's like you can't go steal, and then the one day you didn't steal, be like, but it wasn't me. And everybody's like, but you said that shit last time. You know what I'm saying? Like that doesn't work. You can't lie to me and then turn around and be like, but this time I'm telling the truth.
I hear that line.
And my kids go, can I play the PlayStation? I'd be like, is your room clean? Yes. I'm like, all right, you can play the PlayStation. I get up and go check the room, and then they come downstairs. Hey, it's time to get off, and they get off, and they come back downstairs. Can I play for another hour? No. Why not? Because your room's not clean.
That's true.
And they go in there. Oh, I cleaned it this time. I say, well, this time I don't believe you. And they're like, but I'm telling the truth. Oh, so that makes it more real. It doesn't work that way. I'm like, I'm gonna go check. But when are you gonna go check? I'm gonna go check when I feel like it, because the last time I got up and I went and checked, you know what I'm saying, I let you kind of go play on credit. It's not gonna happen this time.
That's funny.
That's the opposite of the emergence of trust. You know but my kids gain trust in me. I'm consistently going to do what is right according to what you have done. It's still me being consistent.
And like the tipping point, like
yes,
getting into that, you know how I got into like doing the stuff consistently at all times. So I remember once I lied to my uncle. And I don't remember what I lied about it, but it was something very stupid that I could have been like, yeah, I did it, you know, and got away with it and be like, don't do it again. And I would have just ran out. But I lied, and he found out that it was me after questioning all my cousins who were the same age, and he whooped my ass. And then I went to my mom, and she turned around and gave me a pretty good stern like scolding and like, oh, I'm disappointed in you, blah, blah, blah. And then the one line that he said to me that stuck out is like, he said, one thing I hate in this world is a liar. My mom said it to me again. And I was like, you know what? Every time I do something, I'm just going to do it. And if they tell me to do something and I don't want to do it, I just be like, well, why didn't you do it? I didn't do it because I didn't want to. At this point, they realize that, hey, if they beat me, it's not going to make a difference, right? So, like, what I did learn to do was to stay consistent through that, because the moment I start doing something out of character, they would lie, like, and then you would get in trouble. But it's like the way to apply it to your kids. And the moment they figure out, hey, the only way I'm going to be able to do what I want and get away with